Hello everyone, it's Shannon here for Waffle Flower Crafts. In today's video, we are going to do a really fun technique of ink trapping and textured lifting. We're going to combine that with the gorgeous Happy Thanksgiving stamp set. This is the Happy Thanksgiving stamp set. This just released in Waffle Flower's October release. It's a beautifully designed stamp set by J.J. Bolton, and I love it for techniques. There's so many techniques you can do with this really wonderful set. I'm going to start by ink blending a panel here. This panel is slightly smaller than an A2 panel. I just trimmed an 1/8 of an inch off of the top and one of the sides, and I made this panel out of 110-pound white cardstock. And now I'm blending Distress Oxides starting with my lightest color, which is Mustard Seed, kind of blending them really randomly. Then I moved on to Ripe Persimmon, now I'm on Barn Door, and now I'm moving on to Peeled Paint. So just some fall colors here, mixing them, giving a nice kind of mixture of colors. This doesn't have to be a perfect blend. Oxides do blend really nicely, so that's definitely in your favor here. And now that I've gone through all 4 colors, I'm going back through my colors once more just to kind of get a smoother transition from color to color. But again, this does not have to be a really perfect blend because we are going to lift most of this off. And I do want to note that you want to make sure you use 110-pound white cardstock for this because we're going to introduce some water, and that heavyweight cardstock holds up a lot better to the water that we introduced than a lighter weight like 80 or 65. And now I'm all done ink blending. I'm now going to move on to heat setting this, or just drying this. I want to make sure this is really dry. I'm using my heat gun here. This is because I'm going to do some embossing next, and I want that embossing powder to only stick where I'm stamping. So I grabbed the large sentiment from the Happy Thanksgiving stamp set. I'm using my Misty here to help me, and I'm just going to stamp it right in the center of this. I did apply some anti-static powder first, and now I'm going to ink it up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And once I have it all inked up, I'll then fold my Misty over and stamp that Happy Thanksgiving right in the center of my ink blended panel. And then I'll grab some clear embossing powder and just dip this panel into that embossing powder, and you can see that embossing powder is only sticking where I stamped that sentiment, which is just what I want. I made sure I had it really dry, and I did that in a static powder, so it worked perfectly. And then I'll just heat set that sentiment, and now I'm moving on to kind of the fun part here. We're going to start stamping a border with the leaves from the Happy Thanksgiving stamp set. Again, I applied another layer of, or just some more anti-static powder just to be safe. We're going to do some more embossing. This time we're going to use Versamark ink, and I'm just going to ink up these 3 leaves and just kind of stamp them along the border here of this ink blended panel. Not really overlapping the text, just going right near it. And just, this is the trapping ink portion here. So once we kind of get all the way around here with our stamped leaves, we are going to pour on some clear embossing powder, and that clear embossing powder is going to trap that ink underneath. So these leaves will actually be a little bit darker than our background when we're all done because we're trapping the ink underneath them. So I'm now just dipping my panel now into the clear embossing powder, tapping off the excess. And once I'm finished that, I'll grab my heat gun here and just heat set all these leaves. And I actually think this looks really pretty just as it is right now. I even liked it before I stamped the leaves, so you could definitely simplify this card if you want to a little bit, but I think the technique here of lifting is really cool. So I have a chamois here that I've gotten damp, so I've got it wet and then wrung it out a couple times, and now I'm going to kind of scrunch it up. You see it really kind of get some folds and wrinkles in it. Press it down onto my blended panel, hold it there for a few seconds, and then lift up. And what I'm doing is lifting up some of that Distress Oxide ink, and it's creating a really neat texture with the folds and wrinkles in my chamois here. And I did it in real time for the first few seconds because I wanted you to see how real time I hold it down, but I don't hold it longer than maybe 5 seconds, absolute max. And it's just lifting up ink. The leaves are becoming more visible, and I'm also creating a really fun kind of almost like wrinkly crushed leaf texture. Now that I've finished the panel, I'll hold it to the camera so hopefully you can see that texture a little bit better. And you saw how easy this was to do. If you don't like the texture, of course, you can kind of flatten out your chamois and just ink lift as well, and then you'll just have a lighter background without kind of those little folds and wrinkles in it. Now I'm going to move on to assembling my card. I've let my panel dry a little bit. It was a little damp after I do the ink lifting, and So once it's dry, I'm going to add some liquid glue to the back side and just stick this down onto an A2 top folding card base made out of craft paper. And if you wanted to know why I had lines on the back side of my panel, that's because I'm using some kind of not misprinted, but kind of they had some marks on them. They are the Creative Monthly planner sheets from Waffle Flower, and they're really nice cardstock, so I just kind of reuse or repurpose them here. And I just added some beautiful clear enamel dots from the Clean and Clear pack to add some kind of almost like dewdrop kind of sparkle to this card, and that actually completes my card. Here's a second one that I made, same exact technique, same exact colors, just the kind of landscape card base style. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you want any more information on the products I used, please head on over to Waffle Flower, and you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook for more creative ideas. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.